Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Oakwalker. I am here with Earth Medicine for the Soul, our podcast that I do with my friend and compatriot Frank Stronghorse Caldwell. We just call him Stronghorse when we're not calling him Frank. And we want to start again on picking up where we left off from the last episode, which was number 43. And in that episode, we were talking about strange, unusual responses or events that happen as a result of this upcoming shift in consciousness. So the backstories are that as we move through different initiations in shamanism, and in a lot of other traditions as well, we notice that the sense of miracle starts to become greater. And in fact, we find that we can pop into different times or find ourselves popped into different times and situations and conditions that seem uh, beyond real or paranormal, if you will. So I think that these things are going to happen a lot more often as we become deeper and deeper in more and more involved in this shift, because when you get right down to it, underneath everything, everything is consciousness. So if our consciousness changes, then that leads to the idea that changes in consciousness are going to result in changes in reality as well. That's where I was going with this, and I don't know where to go
Okay.
from here
I'll,
except to say that we've both had experiences like that.
yeah, I'll pick it up from there. I think one thing that I've noticed, particularly on the internet and in Facebook and such, that people that are talking about this shift are talking about it in exciting terms, like, "Well, the solar flares are coming. You're not going to believe Wednesday," you know, and you know, and I think they're doing it to try to promote themselves as stay
Yeah,
tuned because after Wednesday we got Thursday, and then no,
right,
you're
right.
not going to believe what happens then, and so. But I think what's important to say here is that this is going to be a slow moving, slow motion deal. It is. I
Uh-huh.
mean, there's no way you could just flip this whole planet overnight into all light because people would lose their minds. Mainly because there's no place in our minds for that to land. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, you and I have been involved in enough phenomena um, where we couldn't quite comprehend what we were seeing because there was no place in our mind for it to go. We recorded it, we remembered it, we were maybe awed by it, but the truth is, in the moment, it's almost like we froze because we did not have a reactionary psychology embedded in ourselves that would allow us to respond to it on an ongoing basis. Is that
uh-huh.
fair? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would.
So, go ahead.
No, I
So
would
I
say
think that,
that. I
that
was just agreeing.
so I think what we're going to see is a slow moving evolution as we're beginning to adapt to these paranormal situations that you're discussing. And just if you just take a look at the whole world and maybe through the eyes of a religion, and the basic tenets and belief systems that they have instituted and invested in, are going to be turned upside down.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
they are, and so that's I mean, so you basically got the resistance of all the people there that are involved in that are saying, well, that's evil or this is darkness or
uh-huh.
trying to classify it in a, you know, good or bad situation, which
Yeah,
maybe it's neither,
yeah, yeah,
it may be neither, it may just be a situation. But when people can't when people can't classify it, they usually go into fear.
Yeah.
Unless you get strange people like you and me who we go into adventure. We get like,
That's sort
oh,
of what I
that's
got into
interesting
this
to see
for,
what's behind there.
What
You
is
know,
that?
yeah, let's take another button to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, you touched on a lot
That's,
there.
we love those Huicholis. They're awesome, man.
Right?
They just don't do enough peyote. But yeah, I mean, so I think it's going to be a conditioning. I think it's going to take a while.
That's a great word.
Of people conditioning themselves to the new world, and whether you that means you get to a saturation point where you can then cross over. I don't know, man. It's
We're,
out of my pay scale, but
yeah, I'm just going to
um,
keep loving. You touched on some really interesting things there. I like that little piece you put in about self-promotion because this is entirely unpredictable. This is an unpredictable event. Even I don't think even the supernatural guides can really pin down a date for when a certain thing is going to happen. I think that because there's too much free will going on in there. So I mean, even if they were, looking at it outside of time and saying, this event happened, I don't even think that they can say, and it happened at this point in your life, or it's going to happen at this point in your life. I think that it's completely unpredictable. And so, therefore, that what people who are trying to make a buck off of this, predicting the shift, are really just like you said, self-performing types of individuals. I keep coming back to the notion that really, since I don't know what's coming. I do know that I'm getting better at staying open and becoming less judgmental. But when I get right down to it, the only decision that I have to make is, well, just keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep loving, keep learning how to garden, keep, getting better at everything and stay in love and stay in openness and everything will turn out fine. It'll be all right.
yeah, I would add to that optimism.
Uh-huh.
I think that I think a lot of the craziness is going on right now is particularly fashioned by the dark force to try to quash optimism. I think it's they're trying to keep everybody in fear and everybody in chaos and everybody in
Uh-huh.
doubt. Because the reality is we live on a planet of dreams. This is a planet of dreams, and so we're dreaming in a new facility, so to
Hmm.
speak. And so the collective have
Wow.
a lot to
He,
do with when, how, and where of the shift.
did you say
And so
collective
if you're
consciousness?
in collective unconsciousness,
Yes. Okay. You
both.
froze there
And
for a
so
second.
yeah. So you have to just you have to understand that all the craziness that you see going on right now is temporary, and it's simply it's the desperate attempts of a dying breed
Yeah.
to try to control something that they have no control over anymore, and
Right.
they know it.
And
They're losing their footing hourly. I mean,
yeah.
literally hourly, and
Yeah, I
and
agree.
and 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 they're being exposed, and they're being, all of the covers that they use to protect themselves and keep themselves out of the spotlight, so that they could, work their little devious bullshit,
Yeah.
is evaporating.
Yeah.
It is. It's evaporating, and so the alternative is that you got to hold on to a really positive, optimistic dream, and force yourself to do it. I mean, I have to. That's what I have to do. I have to literally force myself to do it because it's real easy. It's easier to drop into the hopelessness and the fear and the doubt side than it is to be able to hold a steady pattern of optimism. It's a, what do you want? What are you going to do?
Yeah. Um, that's really well put. It's important to note, I think, that we need to remember where power comes from, and that the things that we call the dark forces, the forces of greed, fear, avarice, anger, um, malice, those forces are derive their power from things that are dark and attached to death or attached to extracting power from other people. Um, Whereas if those of us who derive our power from the forces of life, that is not an extractive force. That is a force that is constantly expanding and blossoming and growing because life works that way. That's how the universe is designed. So the dark forces, even though they seem like they're giving good results on the short run, they don't have the sustainability to make it for the long haul. Never have, can't possibly do that because they're associated with death, right? And and death is finite. It's a stopping of things. I don't know how much sense I'm
Yeah,
making with all this, but
no, I agree with that. But
important.
I mean, the other thing that comes to my mind is that I think for me, the differentiation has always been beauty.
Uh-huh.
The appreciation of beauty, the infatuation with beauty, the creation of beauty. I mean, that uh, that brings in a harmonic resonance of respect.
Yeah,
And when you have respect from the world and the consciousness around you, that's where power sources from.
right. And
You
reverence
know,
too.
and reverence. Yeah, it's a power that doesn't need to be forced.
Yeah.
It's something that just occurs usually when you're least expecting it. It's not something that if you go, I'm going to push the button now and make this happen.
No,
Although it's possible. I mean,
you
for
have to
me, it's
stop
always kind of
pushing.
been, wow, how did that happen?
Right? It's an
You
allowing,
know?
right? So you gotta
Yeah.
drop your walls and your defenses, and then it comes welling up from inside of you. And it's
Man, it's
endless
so
too.
true.
There's no way to run out of love. You can't possibly do that.
No, and it's you find yourself on a ride that you didn't expect, and the ride is thrilling, you
Yes.
know? And so you're on this ride and you're like, wow, this is awesome. And what it how the nurturing that you're receiving from it is mind-boggling. I mean,
Yeah.
it is. I've never found anything that comes close to it health-wise than that.
Yeah. I agree. My first
Particularly if you're
ex
doing, I mean, if you're doing out, if you're out in nature, particularly is what I'm thinking more in terms of, to be clear.
yeah. Yeah, my first experience of that was the feeling of just being covered by a warm blanket where my whole everything in my whole soul just went, oh. And that's when I knew that I was in the presence of the sacred. It was just that big of a thing. It was all encompassing. Beautiful, beautiful feeling. And it happens when I'm least expecting it quite often.
See, I think that's a key word you just brought up is presence. You
Hmm.
know, I mean, that's what we're kind of talking about here. The shift is going to increase the presence of presence.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
It's
well
it's like
put. I
you're
like
going,
that.
yeah, the divine is going to be, it's not going to be abstract, man. It's going to be right out your door. And,
Uh-huh.
you know,
It's been here all the time.
yeah, but it's going to get louder.
Uh-huh. I guess that's because our defenses are, that's the shift, part of the shift. There's a big part is that let me just put this in my terms. I'm getting a lot more comfortable with calming down, with just letting, letting it happen, letting it go. I'm in good hands here. I feel that more often than ever. And I think that it's just going to continue to
Yeah,
get
I
better.
think that's key.
Oh, you stopped again. Doggone this internet. Can you hear me? Hmm. You're going to wish you were looking like something else when this all comes back and we edit it. Yeah. So
Yeah, no,
can,
I think that getting comfortable and is what I'm talking about in terms of holding that optimistic viewpoint.
uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
don't allow yourself to get pulled into the negative blame game, you know. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's the that's what the politicians are, that's what they play on, you know.
Yeah.
They
And the
constantly
billionaires.
make shit up, and the cast got to have an enemy, and it's the
Yeah.
other guys that are doing it, not us, and it's like, I just don't want to hear that anymore.
Yeah. Me
I
too. I'm
just don't want
tired
to
of
hear
it.
about it. Yeah,
And
God,
I,
it's just
I feel like the least amount of power I get, suddenly it gets amplified into a huge threat for people who are relying on that form of energy. The the more comfortable I get in my skin, the more of a threat I become to people who need me to be anxious and who need me to be afraid and who need me to spend money on comfort, etc.
Well, I agree with that. The other thing I've noticed is a lot of times the places where I do my self-analysis are in grocery stores for some reason. And I've noticed, like, people will just stop and stare at me, you know, and it's really because I'm emanating this force of uh, self-assuredness and confidence in my divine self. It's my authentic self in owning it. Really, that's what it is. It's my authentic self in owning it. And it catches them, and it's like and I haven't done anything or said anything. I'm probably, looking at apples or something,
Right.
but, uh, but I've had people like look at me and wave at me, like I don't even know who you are,
Uh-huh.
I think if you go out into the world and see if you can hold that space and that projection of beauty with
Hmm.
confidence and assuredness,
Yeah.
it'll blow your mind what happens, what comes back to you. I mean, it just really blow you away.
Hmm. My screen just did something weird. I sort of got out of it and it panned all by its little self. Never seen it do that before.
Yeah.
Must have been an upgrade.
A new, new technology thing.
Right. Well, I'm reminded of this day. So I've had this day on my mind a lot because the reason I've had it on my mind is because I've never been invited to a lot of truly indigenous events. Um, they seem to want to avoid me, and I think it's because I'm basically white. I'm starting to realize that it's not just because of the color of my skin. It's because of the way my culture, the culture that raised me, moves through the world, kind of as if they're the only thing in it. And I've been very guilty of this, and I'm seeing when I look back at things how if I had just been a little bit more astute and present, then I may have had a really good lesson or met a really good soul who was trying to meet me. And I was at powwow down in San Marcos one year, and this old woman walked up to me and she just stopped and looked at me. And I just basically, looked at her and she didn't say anything. And so I just continued to move through my routine of what I was doing. I was basically shopping around at the booths and stuff. But now that I look back on it, I think if I had just done something a little bit more indigenous, like given her the respect as a grandmother that she might have been expecting, or to have uh, at least addressed her with the in a way that a lot of white people don't generally do, right? And I just wasn't quite ready for that. And I was still all wrapped up in myself, self-absorbed, if you will. And I think that the way she was looking at me it's as if she wanted to tell me something, but I didn't give her the clue that she needed, that I was ready to hear it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, what comes to mind is I remember I was up at the Santa Fe Indian Market and I was with uh, a medicine man friend of mine, and he ran into a bunch of people that were from his area up in northern Minnesota, and
Uh-huh.
he kept saying, "Oh, those are my people," and they would talk, and yeah, yeah, I had grandfather such as, and they, oh yeah, I knew him, and they just clicked immediately, right?
Yeah.
And we were walking away, and he says, yeah, he looks at me, he says, yeah, those are my people. And I looked at him, I said, what's it like to have people?
Right? Because we
I
don't
said,
get that.
I'm like, no, we don't have people, man.
Yeah, we don't. Mm-mm.
And it freaked him out. I mean, he said, I never really thought about that. I said, yeah, white people don't have people, we're not
That's
like,
that's true.
and
And
it
I was
is
just
true.
thinking about this today, is that there's a lot of talk going around now about usurping or absconding. There's a word for this. Um, Other people's traditions, right? Where white people are like taking the traditions. It's like, white people who do rap now, right? Rap was a black thing, and then they've tried to kind of like walk away with it. And I would like to be real sensitive to that. I don't want to go around telling people I'm a Caro because I have a Peruvian mesa on my table, right? I'm not a Caro, and I'm not an Apache, and I'm not an indigenous person in the United States. What I lack is thousands of years of indigenous tradition, right? I don't have a tradition except, Christianity, which is not a tradition at all, really. It's just sort of a club. And I I don't know what to do about that exactly. I keep thinking someday maybe there will be a rainbow tribe tradition where uh, all of these people came together from all different walks of life and all different colors and ethnic backgrounds and everything, and got together and established some kind of a tradition. But I don't know what that would look like, other than that it would be pieces of everybody else's traditions, right? And that we've just like put
Yeah, well,
together.
I mean, that's the Black Elk. That's the
Oh, damn, bad time for you to freeze up. Was that the
together
Black Elk
in one big
prophecy?
melting pot. But
Yeah, melting pot.
but here's, the thing that always comes to my mind is that the downside of being part of a culture or claiming allegiance to a particular group, whatever, is that you can substitute that for finding your authentic self,
Yeah,
you know, and that's kind of the downside. I mean,
yeah.
if there's anything that that this isolated white boys bring to this table is, you know, we're kind of our own little program. That doesn't mean that we're right all the time, but we
Right.
are.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and I think that that's a vital aspect of evolution. I mean, because we're moving away from reliance on, you know, institutional belief
Uh-huh.
systems and
Yeah.
cultural belief systems and yada, yada, yada. And when we're moving into a brand new paradigm, and that paradigm is you in your authentic self, not in your egocentric self, And
Right.
so, um,
You as a
that's
part of the
it's really a
creating.
big teaching we're bringing without knowing it, really. I mean, there's
Hmm.
not anybody that's, yeah, we're a group of isolated people. We get together on Thursdays.
Right.
No, not really.
I do it twice a year.
Yeah, right. Right. Right.
Well, that brings me back to
There you go. There's an aspect of it.
yeah, that brings me back to I don't know what you just said because you froze up again there for a second, but it brings me back to the notion of the shift change being a perceptual notion or a change in perceptions, right? So even if it's what you're saying and what I agree with is that even though we feel somewhat disenfranchised at times, um, it's an important part of that mechanism that's bringing this change of consciousness into fruition. And it's our very willingness to take that space of the disenfranchised searcher, if you will, that's helping to bridge some of these gaps. And I've always, from day one, when I started doing alternative spirituality, I saw myself as a bridge maker, a person who bridges cultures together. And I don't want to say whether or not I've done very well at it, but I'm still doing it. So something's happened. Ripples have occurred in my pond. That's about what I've got for that.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, ironically, I think the many stories you've told me about being isolated, even when inside of a group, um, that still projects you forward deeper into your own medicine, you know? I
Uh-huh.
mean, it's a what it has this everything has a light and dark side, and but that you weren't following in the absolute perfect footsteps of your teacher. You split off and went into your own
Yeah.
realm, which gave you authenticity,
Yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of teachers don't like that, but or good ones will recognize it and encourage it.
Uh-huh.
But that's
Wish you well on the way out the door.
yeah,
Yeah.
and when you learn something, bring it back to me. I'm looking forward to
Right.
hearing it. So, I mean, that's really the measure of a good teacher, as far as I'm concerned. It always kind of blew me away when teachers would be upset because you voiced something that maybe they didn't like, but you was important to you, but they
Yeah.
would take offense to it. And I would think,
Right. It would be contrary
well,
to
never
their
mind.
main message or something like that.
Yeah,
Well, we're out
how
of
we doing on
time.
time?
Um, so do you have anything you want to close up with? You're better at closing than I am.
No, other than I just think that the theme this time was slow down, uh,
Uh-huh.
be comfortable in your own skin, relax, be optimistic, and expect the unexpected,
Yeah.
and allow it to happen. Don't be in fear. Don't freak out about it. Welcome it, and see and look for the beauty in it. And once you recognize the beauty in it, then you can adapt to it.
That was perfect. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Stronghorse. You've wrapped this up really well, very, very well. And so I am going to tell our famous viewers and listeners, thank you all very, very much for being with us. You can visit us on earth-ems.org anytime you want to come and find out uh, how well I've kept up with the routine. We're out there, we're getting bigger and better, and come and see us. Thank you all.